stays with us. So we don't want to generalize and say that this is the experience of all Somalis, youth and things like that, but this is individual stories of their own opinions, how they saw things, their perspectives. So we don't want to say that this is a general thing. We're trying to avoid that, and we forgot to say that in the beginning of the presentation.
Yeah, I don't want to identify him, but he is an elder in the community. So he is a person of stature in the Somali community. Yeah. But it's just the difficulty of trying to relate to another culture.
Yeah. That's true, but I wish we can give you, I wish we can give you more straightforward answer, but
Any questions particularly towards our project?
Suggestions, ideas for the project?
Maybe reaction to the video.
Yeah.
and the videos look way better
Yeah,
on the
sorry
computer.
about that.
Yeah.
It's
Technical glitch.
I think it would be interesting to get the view of like American perspective of how they feel with having Somali population living in Minnesota, and just to see how if those two kind of correlate together or if not, just to see like what others think, not just how we view others, but also how others view us in general.
When I was watching the videos this morning, some of these clips I'm seeing for the first time, one of the things that struck me about the young man who now goes to Duke University and his comments about, well, it's like going back a couple of grades to come to the United States. That's a comment that you find widely discussed now in the scholarly literature as well. We have one example here, but we know from larger projects that are being done that many immigrant and refugee children, and especially the second generation, experience a kind of decline in educational aspirations. Right? They perceive and they see the message at school is we're laid back, it has to be fun, and they change their aspirations the longer they live in the United States. And there's a real decline in educational aspiration from the so-called first generation, the young people who arrive as immigrants after being born abroad, and their children, the second generation.
Just to add to Don's comment, his story is way different from the last, in our lectures, in our discussions, the last memoir that we did was we watched a documentary called The Rain in a Dry Land, and they followed these two families from a refugee camp all the way to Atlanta, and another one to Massachusetts.
Springfield, Massachusetts. They're relocated to two different places.
Yep. So they take us through when the students go into schools, how their classrooms were, and then in the end of the documentary, you'll see at least was it one or two of the boys dropped out of school. Yeah. It was very difficult in situations where Galat, he has a educational background. He actually went to school where some of them didn't have that privilege, and all they had access to was a refugee camp. And in refugee camps, there isn't really much of schooling and things like that. But recently, it's being developed and it's updated, And Galat had a different experience. He lived in the city. So some of them come from a non-educational background, while some have some.
And some have well-educated parents.
Exactly.
We tend, as outsiders, we tend to think of refugees as people in desperate need of help, and so we often assume no education, no job skills, and this is absolutely not the case. And it could very well be that he's from a family that also reinforces his desire for educational achievement because they're highly educated people themselves, even though they may be working at menial jobs in Minnesota. They may have high school and college degrees that don't translate.